Before we begin, let's pause together and find a comfortable seat. Close your eyes softly. Take a deep inhalation through the nose and exhale gently through the mouth with a sigh, like this. One more time. Inhale deeply through the nose. Exhale gently through the mouth with a sigh. Once again, do it on your own and let that sigh carry what's no longer is needed. One last time. Rub your palms. Make a cup out of it. Keep it on your eyes. With few blinks, open your eyes into your palm. Thank you so much. So we are all here for a reason, because most times it isn't just physical exhaustion, and there will be a gentle, quiet ache within, a kind of, I would call it spiritual homesickness, the kind that comes not from doing too little, but from living out of sync with who we truly are. So this happens to all of us. And when that happens, we're actually not alone, because many of us are carrying a subtle grief, not from one big loss, but a gradual erosion through years and years of forgetting, slowly forgetting who we truly are. Okay, so now this session is not a lecture, because it's a pilgrimage of one of the kind as to how we can return home to ourselves. So together, today, let's just explore how the yogic wisdom, yogic texts, modern neuroscience, and some insights into the spiritual psychology, and how all these together can help us see emotional fatigue not just as a flaw, but that sacred message that's coming from within us. So, to begin with, let's understand a little bit of what causes emotional fatigue in the first place. So, from a neuroscience perspective, emotional fatigue is often a kind of result that happens because of chronic sympathetic arousal. So basically, what happens is the body is just stuck in a fight, flight, or a freeze mode. And when this happens, a constant sympathetic arousal happens. There is something called as amygdala, our fear center in the brain, that becomes extremely hyperactive. And along with that, the prefrontal cortex, that's responsible for clarity, for logic, and for empathy, it just starts to shut down gradually. So that's how we move into a very reactive loops of scrolling, comparing, performing, time and again, leading to a state of burnout. And this is not weakness. Let's be very clear with that. It is biology, because it is our own nervous system that's signaling us time and again of there is some misalignment that's happened. And the beauty of it all is yoga offers a very deep lens. When Maharshi Patanjali says yoga's chitta vritti nirodha in the very second sutra of the Yoga Sutra, he is trying to bring our mind and spotlight into the fact that yoga is that stilling of the fluctuations, the modifications of the heart and mind. And what we call as vrittis, or the fluctuations or the modifications, or just the mental noise. Okay, so how do we try to calm them down? How do we still them? Because there are waves of emotions, desires, illusions, and identity. And when they pull us away from our authentic self, and most often it is our own doing. And the worst part is the entire thing becomes magnified beyond we can even think of in this digitally driven world. Going back to Maharshi Patanjali, he talks about various obstacles in yoga. Okay, of the 9 obstacles he mentions, I would like to mention a couple of obstacles and how that is so relevant in the digital world. First, first we can focus on something called as alasya. Alasya is, of course, laziness, but a kind of heaviness, in fact, that occurs from a very misaligned life. Then there is something called as samshaya. Samshaya is a kind of doubt about our own self that drains willpower. There is nothing that can drain our willpower more than self-doubt, I think. That is samshaya. And all these are obstacles, right, in the path of yoga. Or you would say just in the path of not just as a yoga practitioner, but otherwise as well. These are all the obstacles that every one of us at some or the other point of in our life, we do go through that. There is another obstacle, he says, which is Bhranti Darshana. Bhranti Darshana is there is a delusion, there is a misperception of the reality. And this is what makes it all worse. And like I said, the digital world fuels this misperception. And these aren't just psychological, because they are energetic distortion. And it is caused by Maya, by the materialistic world. So in yogic philosophy, this particular Maya, or what we call the veil of illusion, makes us believe that we are our roles, our outputs, our image. We start identifying with them. And we stop living as souls and start performing as just the profiles that we have on various apps that we are on. So what I'm trying to say is we start identifying ourselves with our profiles. We believe that that's our reality. Such is our modern life. So in our tech-saturated world, on one hand, there is constant notifications that shatter the presence of this particular moment. So it's the notifications, in fact, are trying to pull us away from this present moment where we really need to be. We have kind of outsourced our values, our choices, our emotional health to these algorithms. What is disastrous is, in that entire scheme of things, is the comparison culture that distorts our own unique identity. We forget our identity. We forget who we are, how unique we are as people. In fact, we are in a way not respecting that God's creation through comparison with others' lifestyles, with others' choices. So that comparison culture is extremely disastrous in nature because our minds are always online while our souls are completely offline. And this is where we enter into that chamber of emotional fatigue. All right. So, to understand this a little better, let's visit the Bhagavad Gita briefly. So, in the very first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, at the battlefield of Kurukshetra, Arjuna, who is a very great archer, he stands tall with his bow and he's just ready to fight for righteousness. And but then Krishna, what he does is Bhagwan Krishna drives the chariot into the center of the battlefield. That is when Arjuna sees whom he must fight. And something in him breaks. See, Arjuna does not collapse in that war at the beginning because he just doesn't collapse because he needs to fight the war. He collapses before even the battle begins. He says, na yotsya iti govindam. He says, I will not fight the war, Krishna. He says, why? Because he says, my limbs are shivering, my mouth is drying, my skin is burning. I cannot fight, Krishna, because rather than fighting this war, I would I would rather die rather than kill whom I really love. So his hands starts trembling. His breath shortens. His body is fine. But at that point in time, his spirit is just broken. So he is actually in that conflict. What the world expects of him and what his soul is whispering. Basically, the Atman saying, what now? So Arjuna is paralyzed by sorrow, and Krishna at that point reminds him that, look, Arjuna, you are grieving for what that is absolutely not worthy of grief. In the second chapter, in the Sankhya Yoga, he says that this is not just worth your grief. At some point or the other, we all suffer that. It is like, see, Bhagavad Gita is not just one spiritual poetry, but it has these pearls of wisdoms that we can just try to dig deeper and understand and try to inculcate as much as possible. But now, today, what we have reached a point where grieving, what are we grieving over? We are grieving over losing followers on social media, which holds no real value of our self-worth, or just feeling devastated by some negative comments online and forgetting that it's a fleeting and it's just often impersonal. Why do we suffer? Because we have, in fact, lost touch with our own deeper identity, that eternal self, that Atman, that is beyond any roles that we carry, that's beyond any careers that we have, or any kind of external labels. So in today's world, we often confuse what we do with who we are. Okay, let's repeat that. Let me repeat that. So in today's world, think deeply. We have confused ourselves to what we do, the job that we do, the careers that we have, the labels fails at some point. We feel that we have failed. We are, if we are not busy enough in life, we feel worthless. And this, in fact, over time, this false identification slowly starts eroding our sense of self-worth. Like, for example, if there is a doctor, okay, who finds meaning in only saving lives, he or she might feel lost when they retire, and they don't even realize that their deeper self-worth remains untouched by any professional accomplishment or titles. The true rest comes when we remember we are not the role that we play, but the soul behind the role, the Atman behind all this. So, most often, we exhaust ourselves through this misaligned action. And why is that so? Like Bhagwan says in the Gita, that you have the right to perform your duties, but you don't have the fruits, you don't have the right over the fruits of your action. The very famous verse from the Bhagavad Gita, Karmani Vadikaraste Ma Phaleshu Kadachani. So this is, when we start realizing this, it becomes a radical shift from how we usually operate. So we chase the results, we chase validation and or even outcomes. So the burnout that we experience, the fatigue that we experience isn't just from overworking. It is from attaching our self-worth to the results that are beyond our control. So in this entire process of Maya, we start creating an extremely volatile inner world that's driven by just mere success and failure. So imagine if there is an artist and who is just painting from joy, from that inner compassion, inner humbleness, and just for the happiness of it. But if she or he becomes absolutely obsessed with the number of likes or the sales or the art itself becomes a burden, where is the joy? The joy is just lost. Why? Because the mind has shifted. The mind has shifted from the joy of doing it and the mind has become obsessed with the materialistic outcomes of likes, of sales. That's when the joy shifts to become a burden. The joy is lost. So if we act in alignment with dharma and releasing the obsession with the outcome, the joy gradually returns. So Bhagwan says in the Gita that it is better to live one's own dharma imperfectly rather than living another's perfectly. Shreyan swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtitat. It is better to fall or just even fail in one's own duty, in one's own swadharma, than to succeed in the duty of another, in another, what he calls it as paradharma. So performing the duty prescribed in one's own nature, one does not incur any kind of sin. So in a world that celebrates conformity and comparison, Bhagwan advice is liberating, because dharma is your own unique path, not always glamorous, but deeply authentic to who you really are. Following your dharma See, it may seem slower, it may seem less successful, but by the external standards, okay? But it is the only path that will liberate your soul. So you might feel sometimes that, oh, why am I doing this? This is not taking me anywhere, but you will be happy. You'll be authentic. You will be working in tune with yourself. Like, I just remembered the story from the Puranas where the Prahalad was born in a family of Hiranyakashipu, who is an extremely powerful demon king who saw himself as very invincible and demanded that everybody should worship Hiranyakashipu alone. But it so happens that in his son Prahlada's heart, he was worshipping Lord Vishnu, who is the protector of Dharma. But Hiranyakashipu wanted Prahlada to worship him. Despite his father's cruel punishments, isolations, and just various attempts to break his spirit, Prahlada never wavered. Okay, his Swadharma was very, very clear to remain devoted to the truth and righteousness, no matter what the pain is going to be. So, time and again, Hiranyakashipu tried to force his son to renounce Vishnu, but Prahlada's faith only grew stronger by the day. Now, his courage was not just in words, but it was in just that steadfast action as well. So, he spoke fearlessly. He taught others what a swadharma can do. And when we live with pure love and compassion, what is that outcome that we will face? And that is that major takeaway from that story. Because in the climax of that story, when all seem to have been lost, Lord Vishnu appears as Narasimha, the avatar of Lord Vishnu, where he is half man and half lion, just to protect Prahlada and to restore the entire cosmic order by defeating Hiranyakashipu. So, this example shows us that when we cling on to our Swadharma, when we are aligned to ourself, what is that we can achieve in our roles that we play? For example, if somebody is a school teacher, okay, that teacher may earn less than a corporate executive in today's world. But if teaching is that person's dharma, it will bring in so much more inner peace, better alignment, and fulfillment than the job that looks successful but just feels hollow at the end of the day. So we need to gradually understand and align ourselves to our dharma. That will cut down all the noise and also a kind of burnout, kind of fatigue that we might feel as a result of it, of not following our own dharma. So, your job or the roles that you play, the results, that is not you. You are that eternal self. So, time and again, keep reminding yourselves of that because one needs to act from a place of integrity. You needn't have to perform in this world for applause. Integrity over applause. And choosing that soul's path, choosing your dharma, even if that road is less traveled. Okay? That will create a kind of inner peace. So in a culture of exhaustion, like I said, Bhagavad Gita isn't just spiritual poetry. It, in fact, gives us a roadmap to our inner resilience. So, how do we take this advice, take this wisdom, and how do we realign in this age of emotional burnout? First of all, when we hear Bhagwan's voice, it cuts through all the social comparison, all the spiritual confusion that we go through. Because in his teachings in the Bhagavad Gita, he says, you're not the role, you're not your performance, you're not your failures or success. When we start understanding these three things, we start remembering that you needn't have to chase peace. You start embodying that peace. And this automatically happens without any effort. And for embodying that kind of peace, Maharshi Patanjali gives us three timeless tools to realign from emotional burnout: tapas, swadhyaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana. So let's slowly understand what he means by tapas, swadhyaya, and Ishvara Pranidhana in today's world. So tapas, we might have this image of yogis, sages, just meditating up atop a mountain. And we feel that they're just punishing their own bodies. But tapas, in fact, is a very sacred discipline. It's not about pushing or punishing oneself. It is about disciplining oneself of devotion. It emerges from a loving commitment to what, in fact, nourishes us and not drains us. So look at tapas as a gentle fire that transforms and not burns you out. And ask yourself, what helps me remember who I truly am? Slowly make a list of things. Choose practices that anchor you, even in chaos. So start writing it down. And you can even incorporate practices like morning stillness. It can be, you might think that it is very small, all right, but it isn't. When you start your day with just that 5 or 10 minutes of me time, with just no phone, no agenda, nothing, just observing your breath, absorbing into that morning stillness, it's a great way to start your day. You can even incorporate things like having a daily walk, gentle yoga, pranayama, or breath work. Whatever little that you can do, try to incorporate that. And in this digitally overloaded world, have digital boundaries. Set phone-free hours, that is, at least after, say, 8:30 or 9 in the night, have that no screen time hours. It will improve your quality of sleep, which is very, very crucial. And another aspect is conscious eating. So sleep, conscious eating, eating in silence. If not for all the meals, start with one meal a day, eat in silence to just reconnect with your body. So try to do these small rituals. Even though you might feel it is small, it's just going to change your inner alignment. Okay, your uh, vastly, you will thank me later, but try it. Try these very, very tiny, minute details, because yoga is not just about that achieving a very advanced posture, but yoga can be found in these small little alignments as well. So coming to the second aspect of what Maharshi Patanjali has advised us, Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya means self-study. So what are we trying to study? This is more than just reading scriptures. It is the practice of inner listening, a kind of honest reflection, a kind of gentle questioning of what am I doing out of fear and not out of love? What is that I'm doing in my life where I'm not comfortable enough? Where am I choosing approval over authenticity? So these are some questions that you need to ask yourself time and again. Start your self contemplation. That is the starting point of Swadhyaya. And you can keep a journal, like every morning or at the end of the day, you can make a few notes or just lines by reflecting on where did I betray my truth today, or what fear is driving a particular decision that I'm making, or the particular behavior that is troubling me time and again. So it's a kind of checking in with yourself. So spend few minutes on that and honor yourself, honor your existence here by doing these journaling and reflecting. Along with that, what I would suggest is to read, even if it is a paragraph, even if it is a page. Choose books that awaken your awareness and which has a positivity in that. So read, do some very, very conscious reading. That will really take you a very, very long way. So through self-study, one can realize that the emotions that is rooted in childhood insecurity, you will start understanding that. And that awareness, in fact, becomes a kind of a doorway to a more authentic self, to more authentic choices that you can um, take in your life. The third aspect is Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana means surrender to the divine intelligence. Why I'm smiling is because surrender is very easily said than done, because surrender is not just resignation. It's a very, very active process of trusting that wisdom that's just greater than our own mind. And surrender is the most powerful tool that we can have, because a surrender can happen only when we drop our ego, because it's a release from, it's a extreme liberation from the grip of control of, and allowing ourselves, our life to unfold with absolute grace. So what I urge you to do is to contemplate on, where am I gripping too tightly? And can I trust what I cannot yet see? So many answers come from that effort, from, in fact, not from effort, but from letting go. So I'll give you a few tips as to how you can practice surrender. Because in yoga, we say bhakti yoga is the ultimate path that one can undertake. And in bhakti yoga, there is no bhakti yoga without surrender or sharanagati. And there are ways to reach there. And I'll give you a few tips that you can reflect on as to what surrender is. So at the end of the day, what you can do is start reflecting on, I've done my part. Now I leave the rest to the higher consciousness. So try to sink into that at the end of the day. So you just liberate yourself, saying that, okay, I've just done my thing, I've done my part. Now I leave it to you. I leave it to that higher consciousness. So there is no sense of ownership there. You just say, fine, I just let go. Try to do that every night. There is no emotional burden there. There is no sense of burden there when you do that. And also, if you feel that you need something to do physically in order to burn these um, emotional trauma that you're undergoing, the best way to do it is just write that on the paper and burn the old fears that's written on the paper, and drop a stone into a water and just release that anxiety. So these are just those tiny little ways that you can trick your mind. And in moments of uncertainty, take a pause, take 3 conscious breaths before reacting. Make this as a practice. There is no hurry to respond to anything. You need to give suggestions to yourself that, okay, now how do I work my way through this? Pause, take 3 or 5 breaths, and then respond. Okay, so try to incorporate these small things in your day-to-day life. All right, so together with these 3, that is with tapaswadhyaya and with Ishvara Pranidhana, try to create a sattvic field to tackle any emotional burdens. So while tapas can bring in a kind of rhythm, a kind of resilience, swadhyaya can sharpen that inner vision. And Ishvara Pranidhana brings in that softness, that trust, and the sense of surrender. So if we go back to where we started, to neuroscience, when your inner world is out of sync with your outer life, when the nervous system gets dysregulated, there is a sense of gut-brain axis, okay, that becomes imbalanced. Basically, that gut-brain axis produces about 90% of serotonin, okay, the feel-good hormone. And that becomes imbalanced when there is an emotional overburdening. So as a result of that, the brain gets in fear mode. The brain tries to be vigilant. But yoga tries to reorganize your entire biology. How do we do that? Of course, through tapaswadhyaya and Ishvara Pranidhana. And along with that, there is another set of tools called asanas that regulate our neuromuscular system. The forward folds calm sympathetic channel. The gentle back bends actually increase the vagal tone. The pranayama slows the breath, it lowers our cortisol levels and just increases our focus. So, in the path of Hatha Yoga, the breath is that bridge between the unconscious reactivity and our conscious response to the external world. So, that is one tool that you can use. Another very, very interesting tool that we have is by practicing what we call as pratyahara. And before we move into pratyahara, go deepen into the practice of pranayama. The moment you do pranayama, the moment you do ujjayi breathing, when you are practicing asanas, there is a sense of withdrawal. The withdrawal of your senses happen. That is where we can reset our system. We are overstimulated, overexposed in this digital world. But pratyahara, in fact, actually teaches us to disconnect and to reconnect into our true self. So, when one realizes that the silence is not just that emptiness, but it is an alignment, use these techniques. Don't just look at yoga as a physical practice. Fantastic. You can like move your body, move your limbs, do what you want. Use your breath very, very effectively at every given point of time. When you are on the mat, off the mat, wherever you are, keep bringing your awareness to your breath When you start doing that, there is an entire whole universe that opens up. Because as a parent, I know I keep getting these messages time and again as to how do I encourage my child to put away the digital distractions away, the phones, the TV, all the noise. But what I would say is try not to tell your child to put away those digital distractions, but try it yourself. Try to sit in quiet presence with the child if possible. Just hold hands, close your eyes, and teach yourself along with your child to connect with your own breath. Okay. See, it does not require, see, most of the times it does not require any external gadgets, any external tools, but it is our own breath, our own awareness that we need to connect with. And in that kind of shared stillness with the child, we try to emotionally, spiritually learn to align, learn to listen inwardly and to each other as well. And that's the beauty of it. So try to inculcate these small little practices that is very cost effective. And all you need is not any fancy clothes or fancy yoga mats or fancy yoga props, but all you need is your own mind, your own breath. That's all you need. So try to get into that practice of aligning with your breath time and again. Along with breath, another dimension that one needs to focus on is the ahara or the yogic diet. So, what we consume becomes our state of mind. It fuels our emotions. In yoga, ahara or food, okay, has three gunas. The three gunas are, of course, the rajas, tamas, and the sattva. So, in tamasic food, when we eat heavy processed uh, food and late night eating, it creates a kind of fogginess, a dullness of the mind. And that's the point in which we are operating. So think about it. And when we eat rajasic food, that's fried food, sugary food, spicy food, there is so much agitation, there's so much restlessness in us. So you can connect your emotions, your mental state. Try to observe what is that you're consuming. Are you consuming tamasic food? Are you consuming rajasic food? So let your food fuel your thoughts, fuel your emotional well-being, not work against you. So try to have as much plant-based, light, fresh food, which we call as sattvic food, freshly cooked food, and let it be basic without any much spice in it. This kind of food can also help us bring in clarity, bring in vitality and peace. So practice to nourish your body for emotional clarity. You can just have warm lemon and ginger tea in the morning, or just um, have some grounding foods like and have as much ghee if it goes well with your body. Avoid eating in front of any screens. So eat your meals seated in silence, like I said, at least to start with once a day. So fast gently, okay? Don't overstimulate your body. If you want to go on a fast, try to be again gentle with your body there. So don't go on any harsh diets that your body cannot take and your mind just goes haywire. Try to do that slowly and gently with your body. So, as the food, so the mind, and as the mind, so the emotions, and as the emotions, so is life. So, understand this: what you eat is what you are. All right. So, with that, I think we will just try to return to some silence by just closing our eyes and just try to reflect on whatever we heard today, whatever we tried to discuss today. Can we just close our eyes for a moment? Try to keep your left palm on your chest and right palm on your belly. Observe your breath. As you breathe in deeply and exhale completely, ask yourself, what part of me is ready to return home? Ask yourself, where in my life have I traded truth for approval? Reflect. Observe and feel whatever thoughts, feelings that arises in your mind. Tell yourself that there is nothing to fix, but only something to remember. There is nothing to fix, but there is only something to remember. Drop a thought in your mind that you are not here to become someone else. Say, I am not here to become someone else. With a deep sense of conviction, tell yourself that I am here to uncover who I already am. I am here to uncover who I truly am. Feel the sense of strength that slowly emerges as you reconnect with your authentic self. Now, gently repeat the mantra after me. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Ma kaschid dukha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Tell yourself that may all beings be happy. May all be healthy. May all see only goodness. May none suffer. Observe this prayer. Touch every cell in your being. Put a drop of sankalpa in your mind that may I live firmly in my truth. May I live firmly in my truth. Gently rub your palms. Make a cup out of it. Keep it on your eyes. With few blinks, open your eyes into your palm. Hari Om Tat Sat. Krishna Arpanamastu.